we're on. This week, interesting, as always. I always open every podcast, but this is an interesting one. Hopefully you agree. We've got a watch dealer that's known to a lot of us, operates in the UK. A lot of you guys are already purchasing off him or have purchased off him. I know I have. And the name of this company is Kibble Watches. So, mate, welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing good. That was an intro. I like it. I like it.
A little,
just keep you around.
We got to jazz it up, mate, haven't we? We got to jazz it up for the YouTube people.
Exactly.
That's how it works.
Exactly.
So, first and foremost, mate, thanks for coming up. I know this is a jaunt for you, mate. You're down in the southeast.
That's right, in Essex. Yeah. So up into London and then that little stint just over.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Getting to London's difficult, I think.
Yeah, I mean, as you probably well know, as soon as you get into that little ring part of London, it just becomes chaos.
Yeah,
the journey that should take half an hour takes 2 hours.
Of course, yeah, of course. And it's odd, mate, because I've headed over to Essex a few times in the past, and the train, like back and forth from Liverpool to London, is like lightning speed.
Yes.
Whereas that little sort of steam engine you've got running back and forth, mate, is to be desired.
I used to live in Leicester, and it takes just as long to get to Leicester to London as it does to Essex to London.
Yeah.
Makes no
It's
sense.
nuts, mate, isn't it? It's nuts how it works. But, mate, listen, welcome. First and foremost, as I said earlier, I've bought pieces off you. Pretty much everyone in my team have bought pieces off you. A lot of my friends have bought pieces off you. And this isn't something that's just happened. This has happened over a period of years. So when I started this podcast, I wanted to look at like multifaceted angles of the industry. So Kibble came to mind immediately on looking at watch dealers and how this works and how this operates for you. So naturally, your mate reached out. You were kind and gracious enough to jump up. But before we get into that story, mate, if you don't mind, could you take us back? Like, who are you? Where are you from? Where did you grow up? What's the beginning for you, mate?
Yeah, I mean, where do we begin? So I'm originally from Leicester, born and bred, unfortunately, for some reasons, hey, but it's an all right place. But yeah, the watch world really came into my life when I was about 16. My dad, wasn't into watches. None of my family were into watches. Grew up on a pretty rough council estate, so there was never really nice things. So watches were not something on my mind at all.
Yeah.
Working a job, stacking shelves, normal stuff you do at sort of that age, and you realise you're not allowed your phone on you. You got to keep that aside. So I started getting into watches. Started looking online. I bought Hugo Bosses and stuff like that, and they just all fell apart pretty much instantly.
Yeah.
So when there's got to be a better solution. So I found a watch on eBay, £17, and it was a Citizen Eagle 7 from the 70s.
Wow.
I still own it today, right? So mechanical, automatic. And I remember getting it like, how does this work? Crack the back open, seeing that rotor spin round. I'm like, this is cool, right?
Yeah.
And I started searching. There was all different colours, styles, two-tone.
Yeah.
So I just ended up with about 20 of the things, right? At 16 years old, sat there in my room. Like, what am I doing, right? So started a YouTube channel, because as you do at that point, and I started talking about these watches, saying, hey, if anyone wants to buy one, get in contact. Now, I'm 26, so that was 9-10 years ago.
Yeah.
Back then, there was about 5 people making videos about watches.
Of course.
On YouTube. You had TGV, you had Federico, you had all these main guys. So I was just slotted right in there, even with like 20 subscribers, because it was like, has everyone seen this kid? Who's just come on the scene, fresh face, I had blue hair. Like, it was instantly marketable. And everyone was like, oh, this is cool. Let me email him. I'll buy a watch. And all of a sudden I started selling these watches, making a little bit of profit. And I was like, oh, there's something in this. And ever since I was a young kid, I've always been, buying and selling, doing bits and bobs as you do. Yeah. But I never had something I really enjoyed doing. Yeah. And the watches just fitted right into that. So at that point, I knew this is what I was going to do. So with a couple £100, let's buy a few watches and set up a website. It was like, it's kibbletalkswatches.webspace.com, right? It was the longest web name and no one's ever going to remember. Yeah. But it was a start and I was excited. And everyone around me thought I was mental. And I was like, I'm going to be a watch dealer. I'm going to be in the watch world. I'm going to do something. And everyone was like, James, shut up. This is another one of your fancy dreams that you come up with. I was going to be like the next scan.co.uk making like computers and things like that. There was always something. But the watches, I was like, this is the one. This is the one. Yeah. And just carried on down that path. I was like, okay, let's get into retail. So I went into every shop with my blue hair, but I put a suit on, so it was all good.
Tell me about the blue hair, mate. What was that about? Was that like a Smurf phase thing going on?
It was dyed blue. I can't even remember, to be honest, exactly why I did it. I used to make videos even before then, right? So I used to do daily vlogging. Okay. Did 200 days of it, as you do at that age. Nothing better to do. So of course, I did that, and one of the things was like, I've got no content today, so I'll dye my hair blue. Right. So I dyed my hair blue. And
this is so interesting here because I'm a dad at this point. My kids are trying to vlog. I'm not letting them post anything.
It was all Casey Neistat. I don't know if you remember him when he had his glasses. he had his Ray-Ban sunglasses that he'd spray paint white and chip everything off and like make us they were called the Casey glasses, basically.
Yeah.
So I copied that, of course. And he dyed his hair one time, so I was like, I'll copy that. It's how you become someone, right? You copy someone else.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. So that's how the blue hair came about.
Okay.
And I had a man bun at the time as well. Terrible.
Nice.
Now, as you may know, blue doesn't stay blue. It goes like a moldy green.
Of course, yeah.
So I ended up with a moldy green man bun, which was just the worst thing
nice
ever.
gem.
It was great. It was great. Yeah. That's exactly it.
Sorry, mate.
You're going to have to put that on screen.
That just came to my mind.
I'll have to find a photo and send it to you so you can put it on screen with that. Just for the ultimate embarrassment. It's great.
Sorry, bud.
It's all good. It's all good. So that's how that came about. But anyway, I went around all the retailers with my crazy blue hair, now green, wearing a suit and saying, I want to be in the watch world, question me. I can do this. And they were like, you have no experience in this industry. Please come back when you've got a few years experience. Every single place said this.
Yeah.
So I was like, how the hell am I ever going to get experience? So I went into, anyone who's been to Leicester, you got the High Cross, the big shopping centre. There used to be a House of Fraser in there back when that used to exist. And it was an outlet, one of 3 outlets in the country. And they had a watch station, which was 2 cabinets like this size, just rammed full with fashion brands. 80% off retail, no box, no papers. You don't even get your links changed, right?
Wow.
Battery might not even be running, but it was 80% off. So you just sort of took it, right?
Yeah.
And I went in there and they were like, we'd love to have you. And I was like, bloody hell, okay. Here's my in. And that's when it started. Worked my way through retail with that. I would always travel around whenever there was an opportunity, whether it be in when they were opening up in High Wycombe, they were opening up something there. I was like, yeah, I'll go. I'll run it.
I'll be the
do
guy.
Whatever. At 17 years old, I know everything. You don't know anything, right? But
how do you get the experience?
Yeah,
by getting the experience.
You wing it. And there was a Beaverbrooks across the road from that place in High Wycombe. So I used to go in every single day and just harass them. I'm like, by the way, I work over there with watches. If you ever need someone. And it was just like, okay.
Yeah.
Jog along now. Wasting our time. We've got customers we want to sell to. I just kept doing this until they were like, okay, we're give them an opportunity. And that was it. I was finally in the luxury watch world. They had Tudor, Tag Heuer. I was like, finally. I'm away from Hugo Boss and nothing against these brands.
No, I get it. Yeah.
I want to be handling real watches, right? Made in Switzerland, mechanical. And it was just a dream come true. And that was the entrance into jewelry as well, diamonds. I absolutely loved selling jewelry, like diamond wedding rings and everything. It was so fun. And that's that process. I went into the auction world. I went back to the retail world. I did everything all whilst building Kibble Watches on the side. So it was always in the background because I, as I said, grew up in a council estate. We didn't have much money. There was no option for me just to say, hey, can I get 20 grand to start this, right? So I had to build it up. And that's what I did on the side of all these things. And it got to a point where eventually it became a big enough conflict of interest for the places I worked where customers would come in, they say, oh, you're Kibble Watches, or, and it started this. And interestingly, it wasn't the company that let me go. They actually liked it because it brought them in.
Of course,
They had brand new stuff. I didn't have brand new stuff. They had jewelry. I didn't have jewelry. So it worked. It worked quite well. It was mutually beneficial.
Of course.
It was actually one of the big brands, one of the top brands in the UK contacted the company I work for and said, hey, this James Kibble lad, you've got to get him gone. Otherwise, we're going to get rid of the whole authorized dealership for your whole company.
Wow.
And I remember getting pulled into the office and them sitting me down. And I thought it was just another day. I had no idea that this was going to happen. And they looked me in the eyes and went, there's a letter of resignation here that we just need you to sign. You're going to have to leave today. And I was like, what's happened? Have I done something wrong? Did I say the wrong thing to someone? And they were like, no, we've the big bosses have spoken. You've got to go. You had 2 of the brand. I won't say the brand name, but we had 2 of the brand name, brand new. That I didn't buy brand new. I bought them off someone else. And this was when that brand was trading over retail, and they didn't like it. They said, "We can see you work here. You work for this company." Even though they weren't from the company, I made sure any watch I sold never came from that company, just to avoid everything. And at the moment that happened, it was like this feeling of dread. Like I wasn't at a point where I could go full time into Kibble Watches.
Of course,
it was doing well, but it wasn't doing that well. And I was living in London at this point.
Of course,
so I was like, Jesus. But then I thought, if one of the top brands is that threatened by me, maybe there's something here. Maybe all this time I'm working 45, 50 hours traveling around for this company. If I just put all of that into Kibble Watches instead, maybe I can go full time.
Okay.
And I just took a risk. I had no family at this point. I had no kids. I was living in a house share. So I was just like,
roll the dice.
What have I got to lose?
Now is the time.
Exactly, and thank God it worked out. And that's sort of how Kibble Watches became about and how I went full time into it.
So how long ago was this, mate? When did this?
Oh, I'm terrible with dates, but I think I've been full time now like 5 years. So it all happened very quickly. Like the amount of places I worked and the amount of experience I got happened so quickly. I just took any opportunity. An auction house reached out. I'm still very good friends with them, and they were like, "Hey, we'd love for you to work with us." And I went over and started having a look at everything. I was like, "Let's do it." And I was only there for 3 months, and we went our separate ways again. Sort of conflict of interest, but many other things. And it was the best experience ever. But again, an experience I needed. I helped out in watch shops like Independence. I helped out in repair side. Never did much of the repairing myself. I'm terrible at it. I've not got the patience, but saw that side of the world. So all of these things just helped me get, I would say, a sort of unique perspective of every aspect of the industry. So I could sit there with a customer today, and when they say they've been into a retailer, I know the experience they probably got. When they're talking about the games that you have to play, I know it because I was told to make customers play those games. When they go to an auction and they get the wide range of what it could go for and the estimates, I understand that. Repairs, it's just helped really for customers to come to me with anything watch related. I can probably
you can assimilate to the experience. Tell me about the games, if you don't mind. Is that possible?
With the games, I mean, it's an interesting one. The brands themselves will always say, "Oh, we have no relation to what happens," but they know exactly what happens. And if you're not hitting certain quotas, they will cut you off. They will threaten you with things, and they know the only way you're going to hit those quotas is by making customers play certain games. And what I mean by that is you want X watch is hard to get and it's trading over retail, and we know it trades over retail. All retailers pretend like they don't pay attention to the pre-owned market. They do. They're on it 24/7. They're obsessed with it. And to get that piece, you have to get these pieces. You have to, we won't tell you straight up, but if you've ever been to a retailer and wanted a Rolex, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Or they'll kindly take you over to the jewelry section. You say, does your wife want any of these beautiful diamonds? Because they make humongous percentage margin on diamonds over watches. Watches is one of their lowest earners. High turnaround and high turnover, but very low margins. Whereas jewelry, diamonds, it's insane how much margin they make on those things. Wow. So they'd rather sell you a load of those, truthfully, than another watch. But again, if you're a watch guy, you're probably going to buy a watch.
It's interesting.
It's crazy. It's crazy world.
It's
I never liked it. I loved what I did. I loved working in it, especially when the games weren't there. But as time went on, the games became more because the industry just grew.
Of course.
At the end of the day, it's just simple supply and demand. And the supply technically was there, but the demand was that much higher. Only marginally, but enough to sort of, I don't know, manipulate it, which is what they did.
Okay. That I mean, we've all heard similar stories to that, mate. That's just the way it is, and it shouldn't be, but it is.
Unfortunately, I mean? And this is why I like the pre-owned world. It's simple. I have the watch on my website. The price is there. I've got it. It's yours if you want it. So there's no games.
Your pre-owned stuff, mate, is some of the pieces you come across are just exceptional, like absolutely exceptional, without giving the game away or. This isn't a how-to. Do you know what I mean? But I imagine you've got a network of suppliers that you've built up and accrued over a period of time that you know and trust, and you get a heads up on stuff that are coming in, and then you get to pick and choose the stock you want. How does that work?
Yeah, amazingly, it's not quite like that. So there's the dealer network, which is what once you've been doing this for long enough, you almost get like a little nod from everyone. They go, let him in. Let him in the door. And then all of a sudden you're in the dealer world. So there's the dealer chats, there's like 20 group chats just in the UK alone. There's the trade shows, there's all these things. So you get entered into all that. That's one aspect you can do. You could just be sitting on those dealer chats all day asking anyone got this or seeing what people are posting. They post the photo, they post, all the details in the price. Right? And it's obviously a trade price. The reality is the margins aren't as great as a lot of people assume in the pre-owned watch world. Just complete transparency. It works out somewhere between 8 and 12% margins. Very low when you consider other industries. But again, it's a high volume industry. So you don't make a lot on each one, but you hopefully sell a lot, right?
Of course.
Simple maths. So That's one avenue. But for me, what I've managed to do is, because of the type of pieces I sell, for anyone who's not sort of seen what I do, it's more obscure, it's more interesting. And I don't mean that in a horrible way to the sort of mainstream stuff. I do a lot of that as well.
Yeah.
But it is the brands that a lot of people have never heard of, models they've never seen before.
Yeah.
Everything I get, I try and have some sort of quirkiness to it. You know,
course,
even if it's a mainstream thing, maybe it's a Zenith Daytona instead of just a Daytona.
Yeah.
Like little things.
Yeah.
But enough of those that collectors notice me. So all my customers pretty much are collectors.
Yes.
They're people with 10 watches at least, half the time, right? And they constantly buy and they constantly sell. So the good thing is, it's a 360 business model I built. So I pretty much exclusively get watches from collectors. On the odd occasion, I'll buy something from a dealer or an auction or something like that.
Wow. Okay.
But I would say probably 95% of my stock comes from a collector. So someone like yourself or someone you know.
Yeah.
And of all the people you've said to, who've bought from me, chances are pretty high some of them are sold to me.
Yes. Okay.
Either sold directly to me or consigned with me. So that's another option I do, which is a great way for anyone out there who wants to get into this. If you can get into the consignment, it's a good way as well. Now, there's a lot being said about consignment, and I'm sure we'll touch on some of those things.
Explain that like I'm a child.
Okay. Right? So consignment is basically where you have a watch you want to sell.
Yeah.
And you maybe offer it around. Let's say it's a really hard watch to sell. It's an obscure watch. It's a brand that most dealers don't even know. So they just tell you not for us, right?
Yeah.
A watch like that, you could sell to a dealer, but they're going to want to pay you pennies on the pound really, because they don't know how long it's going to take to sell. Maybe there's not an established market. So you're having to look at many other factors to get a gauge of price.
Yeah.
With a watch like that, you're going to probably take a big loss if you sell it to someone like me directly, because I'm going to have to count in all those factors.
Of course.
Whereas if you give me the watch to sell on your behalf and I just take a 14% commission on the actual sale, you work out better, because I retail it along with all my other watches on the website. So it's just another piece of stock, but you own it, right? Okay. So it's in my possession. Customers can come view it, but I sell it at the retail price and only take that percent.
So you're like a living, breathing eBay.
Yeah.
In many senses.
An actual human you can talk to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you go, it's been 3 weeks, how's it going? You can give me a call and I can tell you.
Yeah, of course.
It's nice. Yeah. And it's a good way to do it, because from our perspective, or my perspective, the money for the business often goes into the more mainstream stuff, the stuff where it's an established market. So Rolexes, Omegas, Tudors, Breitlings, stuff where I can look at and go, okay, I've got historical data of selling 20 of them. I know what I need to pay. I know what it's going to sell for.
Of course, yeah.
Whereas the more obscure stuff, the stuff I really love buying and selling and trading in, the reality is a lot of time it's consignment, because one, it's come from a collector. So you're going to be more invested in the market, in the industry, than Joe Bloggs who's selling his Rolex Submariner.
Of course.
So if I can get you more for your watch, and you're happy, and I sell it for a fair price and the customer buying it is happy, I've now made two people happy. Oftentimes people aren't happy when they sell a watch, right? Because you have to sort of go, I'm going to have to sell it for that price.
Yeah.
Whereas consignment, you get the most for it.
Yeah.
So that money ends up coming back around half the time as well, because you want to buy another watch.
Of course,
You go, I've just sold through him. What's he got? Well, what can you get me?
Of course. Yeah, no, I'm with you.
So it's a good way of doing things, and it just keeps it transparent as well, because if you're consigned with me, you know what I've sold it for.
Yeah.
And you know what my margin is.
Yeah.
And then when you go to buy a watch, you can go, actually, that's pretty fair. He's not,
of course,
he's not making £2,000 on a £3,000 watch.
Yeah,
right?
he's not on my eyes out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm with you. That's fascinating. So on the consignment stuff, mate, is this a done thing? Are you bucking the trend a bit there? Is this a common thing with?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a thing. So the word consignment maybe is a bit more newer that people use, but it just used to be called sale or return, right? So dealers who have been around for a very long time, they would have done this with their regular customers. So if you had been buying and selling at like a shop 30 years ago, like an independent secondary market dealer, and you went in and say, hey, I've got this Hublot I want to sell, they'd go, I'm not going to buy it, but I'll put it in the window. Yeah. If I can get you X back, is that good? And they'll go, yeah. And then that's a consignment, right? There might not have been a contract like there formally is now.
Yeah.
But there was always some form of it. It's just now, and when I started it was definitely still frowned upon. Dealers didn't talk about it, but they did it. The reason being, they didn't want people to think they don't own their stock, because the moment people think you don't own your stock, for some reason people thought, well, that means you're not official, you're not legitimate, whatever it might be. And I get some part of that, of course. But I think if you're just open and honest about it, and you physically got it, you're describing it as such, and they can come view it, and there's a contract in place, it's all formal. Yeah. I don't think there's any downside to it, really.
Fascinating way you're doing business. And from a collector standpoint, it's incredible, because we've all got lives to live, and we've got wives, husbands, commitments, whatever it may be. Do you know what I mean? And there's an element of it, certainly in my house, where it's one in, one out.
Yeah.
So that makes life a lot easier, where in the sense of you haven't really got to let go of something from your collection. You can just put it out and, see what could happen, and then use that capital essentially to fund the next venture.
And it allows you in those situations, as you say, and I have a lot of them where, the wife's saying 1 in, 1 out and everything like that. It allows you to go back and say, I got the most for it. Truly,
of course.
Because you're not going to get that amount back if you sell it, unless you get lucky and the dealer's not paying attention to the market that day or something.
Yeah.
They pay you a bit more. But the reality is, it's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Of course, I still buy and sell a lot. It varies throughout the year. Busier times I'll probably own more because owning the stock, I get more margin. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
It has to work out better for me if I'm going to put the capital at risk.
Yeah, 100%.
But, certain times of the year, I'm more heavy in consignment because it's just a slower market. It makes more sense, rather than risking the capital at that moment. Yeah. And it also allows collectors to sort of, as you say, test the market in a way. Now, obviously, I don't want to put a watch up for sale if I'm not going to sell it. So it has to be guided by my pricing. You can't just come to me and say, hey, I've got this I don't know, Rolex that's worth $5,000. I want you to put it up for 10.
Yeah.
I'm go, no, thank you.
It's not happening. Yeah.
So it's got to be guided by me.
Yeah. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. On the topic of selling, reselling, Rolex, etc., we've seen some fluctuation in pricing, mate.
Absolutely.
Massively. I mean, you look that over the last 12 months, but even you stretch that out over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
How would you describe that to someone new coming into the space? This podcast is sponsored by zulualphastraps.com. Zulu Alpha Straps make some of the best watch straps in the market, and we do it all here in the UK by hand. As a listener of the Making Time podcast, you can enjoy 15% off on your next order by using the discount code MakingTime15. Your support makes this podcast possible, so please head over to zulualphastraps.com so we can continue to bring you fresh content. Now, back to the show.
I'd say it was a huge mixture of many things, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people call it the COVID market.
Yeah.
And what happened was a lot of people, when COVID started, the initial burst of COVID wasn't fun at all, and none of it was fun. But that initial moment, we didn't know what was happening. So markets went quiet.
Yeah.
But then when people realized for the most part, we're going to be okay, we're doing the lockdowns, you're getting mortgage relief, you're getting paid still, you're not going on holiday, you're not buying your coffee every day.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, by the end of the first couple of months, people went, I'm better off than I usually am.
Yeah.
And people got bored at home, so they started buying watches. I'm sure they did many other things, but in our industry, people started buying watches. And all of a sudden, we had this huge demand spike where people just sat all day, nothing to do, buying watches. And they would buy maybe 2 or 3 more in a month than they typically would, and then sell a few more as well. So it just became this constant turnaround. Certain brands obviously had to close production, so there was truly a supply issue as well to some of it. But the rest of it was just natural progression of more people getting into it, more people buying, and it pushed prices up. There's no way around it. Dealers definitely played a part as well, because dealers were more cash rich than they've ever been and started, buying and selling to each other a lot more. And when that happens, it artificially raises prices.
Yeah.
Because if I sell you a watch and you're a dealer and you need to replace that watch and someone else has got it, well, they're going to ask a little bit more because they saw you sold it for that. So that just keeps happening.
Yeah.
So it was definitely market manipulation, unintentional, I would say, on the most part.
Yeah.
Then there was also the narrative, which was the prices were going up. It was almost a case you could buy a watch and sell it the next month and make a profit, which is just insane. A market shouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were claiming this is the new market. This is where we're at. Watches are investments. You need to sell your stocks, get out the footsie, get into this. Yeah. And people did it. People listened to these sort of sharks saying this stuff, unfortunately. Obviously those people are very quiet now. Now the market, fell off a cliff almost. But if you look over like a 10, 20 year index, you'll see a gradual slow increase is what it always should have been, especially when we're talking about Rolex. You had this natural progression in price. Yeah. COVID happened, huge spike for multiple reasons, some of which we've just discussed. And then all of a sudden drops off a cliff. Because of how high it went up. But if you look again at that 20-year index, it's now back onto the straight line path.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Of course, some watches not so much. Some watches still are trading higher. There's still fluctuations, but on an overall, that's where the market is. And I think it's sort of interesting how it's taken us a little while. I think we're there now, but it's taken some collectors a little while to get out of the COVID market mindset. There's some people who still would call me and say, hey, I've got this watch. What would you pay for it? I'm like, look, I'll be here, and they're like, oh no, I paid this. And I'm like, I understand that, but the market was there, the market's here now.
Yeah.
And they go, I'll just hold on and wait. And it's like,
it's not gonna happen. Yeah.
If you're waiting for that market to come back, you got to wait for natural progression of the market to come back, which is 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years of what, if you've got another watch you want, I know it sucks, but sell it, maybe make that 1.5, 2 grand loss. But the watch you're getting into probably also has a 1.5, 2 grand loss of what it was at the peak of the market where you bought the other one.
Of course.
Technically, they cancel each other out. But yeah, it was an interesting time, COVID. Like I was still in the office every day because I couldn't carry a 1-ton safe home with all my watches, right?
Yeah,
so
I
was still in every day doing work. But it was like no other. You could get offered a watch and it didn't really matter what it was. You bought it and you could sell it.
Yeah.
And you'd make profit. Yeah. And it was just this churn. And a lot of dealers, they went a bit crazy. They got themselves a nice flash new car, hired 20 more people, upgraded everything. I was like, I don't think this is going to last. I was very honest during it as well. Looking back, someone sent me a video because I do like weekly drops. Yeah. One of the videos, I was talking about where the prices are. And I'm like, this isn't going to last. Be cautious. If you're buying at this price, buy it because you love it and you want to keep it. Yeah. But, it's not going to last. And it didn't.
It's fascinating, mate. It's nuts because I've seen, and I've witnessed people buy into this and buy at that time on the premise of my money's safe, or even that, like my money's, and this is where it gets weird, right? So we're in a time now in economically where your money's not doing an awful lot in the bank either. No, do you know what I mean? So for a lot of people,
we're actively losing money with money in the bank.
This is the thing. Do you know what I mean? So for a lot of people, it's like, well, I may as well enjoy whatever piece of stuff I've got squirreled away. I may as well actually wear it and have it and hold it and feel it. And at worst, it's going to stick where it is. But everyone's telling me it's going to rise, it's going to go up, it's going to go up. And it kind of didn't work out that way.
No, and I think the reality is as well, something to keep in mind is, let's say you buy a watch at £8,500 because that's what everyone's got it listed at. Maybe it's everyone's got it at $8,750. I've got it at $8,500. You go, oh, bargain, I'll buy $8,500. Let's say you keep it for 6 months and go, I want to sell it. Price is still the same. You're not going to get $8,500. A dealer's got to buy and make a margin, so you're going to lose money.
Yeah.
But the reality is, the way I used to tell people how to look at it before COVID, and I tell them now as well, it's the same thing. Buy a watch, enjoy it. If you have to sell it or want to sell it, whatever that cost difference is, because it will probably be a loss. Very few watches actually go up in value. Whatever that loss is, that's your cost to wear. So let's say you've worn a watch for 2 years and you've lost £1,000. You've paid £500 to wear that each year.
Yes.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Another thing to keep in mind, and what I often tell people when they say, what's a good investment? What should I buy? All these, the word investment, it irritates me because I'm like, buy what you like. Watches aren't investments. Yeah. If there were investments, watch dealers wouldn't exist where we buy a watch today to sell it tomorrow. Of course. That's our goal. We don't want to stick around with a watch for a year, 2 years. Now, I have my personal collection, which I buy because I like them. They're not worth particularly anything. And if it goes up, it goes up. If it goes down, it goes down. So again, as a dealer, someone who does this for a living, even my mindset with my own watches isn't of investment. So, but we're getting back there. I think COVID just got a lot of people excited, as it always does. When money's flowing like that, people get excited. And when they get a taste for something, if they buy a watch and then sell it and make some money, they go, whoa.
We can do this again. This is replicable.
Exactly, and that creates the taste, and it's an addiction. It's addictive. You get that hormone spike, and you think this is great. And
I've been described many times during COVID as a dealer. And not of watches. It is, and I think the community on a whole during COVID as well sort of banded together and became a thing. Where a lot of content was getting pushed out. A lot of lives were happening, a lot of buzz and hype, and let's be honest, mate, we're in the watch game. Like it's all of us are a little bit nerdy. Do you know what I mean? To like and nerd out over this stuff. And it's amazing. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But obviously with COVID and everything that brought, yes, the negative aspects of it. But there were some positives that came on it. Of course. Within the industry of people engaging with each other, conversations, live streams, whatever it may be. And that sort of floated everything up. That coupled with then the extra expendable income, the fact that, we're all sort of missing certain elements of happiness in our life and treating ourselves in certain ways. Watches were perfect. They could be shipped in the mail. Some people were telling us that, your money's safe in them, etc. How that's rolled out and settled over the last 2 years is fascinating. It's because it really has taken a period of time for that to just sort of settle down. But as you say, we're now in a situation where where it's back on its regular path and where it should be.
Back on the normal thing. I had a customer the other day say he's been buying and selling watches like as a collector for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
And 20 years ago, what the narrative used to be, and it used to be bragged, was you buy a Rolex and sell it in 6 years and that's when you get your money back. And it was good. It was like, wow, how great is that?
Okay.
And he was like, we're heading back to that path. And it's not necessarily a bad path. You know, I don't know. I think if we can move the sort of goalposts of when you buy a watch and when you sell it and what the margin is and all that kind of stuff, if we can make it more realistic. And it just takes dealers being honest.
It's an education piece, isn't it?
Of course it is. Of course it is. And I think it's hard when there was a lot of conversation and a lot of narrative during COVID of investment. It just was the buzzword. You know, we had places doing like reports showing the increase each month, and it was like formal. It was like, I think Bloomberg were doing it, for God's sake. So when you have financial institutions looking at it and doing it, treating it like an art world almost, the wine world with how that went, it's easy to sort of go, well, yeah, of course watches are going to be in that park, and some are. There's no question about it.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I think we have to separate that. We have to go, okay, what are the watches that are truly in that camp?
Yeah.
They're going to be incredibly special vintage pieces that are worth a huge amount of money, incredibly collectible and super special, right? All those kind of things. A Submariner, as great as it is, a modern Submariner, does not fall into that camp. There will be hundreds of thousands of them in circulation. You know, I always say to people, search the reference on Chrono 24 and it will tell you how many there are. And then you can filter to the UK and you can see there's 120 for sale in the UK. It can't be that rare. It's there. You want it, it's there.
Yeah.
If you want something and it's not there, it's probably rare. So, you know, I think we just got to move the goalpost, really. And I think we're in the process of doing that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Talking on pricing on watches and stuff, then when we're talking about rarity and scarcity, and let's take any brand out of it, let's look generally across the board in watches. What allows it, what causes a watch to rise in value? Or what causes a watch to hold its value, in your opinion?
There's many factors. Anyone who tells you they know and can tell you what it is, they're lying, right? No one's got a crystal ball, but there's certain things that play into it. So we were discussing earlier, dress watches are coming back in. You know, nice, beautiful, smaller cases, integrated bracelets, gold, things with intrinsic value. That's what I'm seeing, and that's where I'm actually putting my money. I'm buying a lot of stock like that. You know, full gold bracelet, 70s pieces.
I've noticed this, mate, and
it's great.
I hate you for it
because
this is killing me. It's killing me.
It's like the best thing
you
ever.
You got a two-tone Tudor there you had the other day, and I was just like, oh my God. My brother-in-law's got it in 38. I think we actually had it off you. And then you came up with the one in 40, and I was like, oh,
it's good, isn't it?
No, I've got to pay for the garden to be done. my missus is going to kill me. But yeah.
Hey, you buy the watch, I'll come do your garden. Don't worry.
Fair one, mate. Fair one. But yeah, please continue. Sorry, I jumped in on that.
Yeah, but I think it's people are looking where. So there's always been players in the industry who have been buying and selling more obscure stuff, right? So the full gold pieces, things like that. Those people 10 years ago were saying, this is the new market, this is the new market. They were just ahead of the curve. But now it's here. Now people are buying it. I think you've got to just buy what you like. And if you happen to be on social media a lot, you're probably going to end up liking what's shown at you a lot. It's just the way it goes. And right now that seems to be the case. So, and as a dealer, you know, obviously I have to pay attention to these things. I have my opinions and ideas of what I think and where the market's going. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're very wrong, and I have to sort of take that on the chin and lose the money when that happens. But it's just the nature of it. And I think the most important thing is just buying what you like. If you're aesthetically drawn to it and you can afford it, who cares about anything else? You know, it's the conversation I always have with customers about size. Size of watches seems to be like the thing everyone wants to talk about. So a new brand will release a watch in 39. There'll be some guys like, it's not 38.5. I bought it. It's like, for God's sake, who cares? You know? So I always say, try them on. And also just remember, if you wear 40 mil and that's all you ever wear, the idea of a 32 mil watch on your wrist is going to be so alien to you that when you put it on, you're going to be like, this looks tiny. And then,
a toy.
Exactly. But the longer you wear it, you become used to it. Same way you become used to what a 42 looks like on your wrist. And something we have to remember is watches have been smaller for longer than they've been bigger.
Of course.
Right? The bigger watches is more of a recent trend. Watches have always been smaller. And it seems to be going back that way. And at the end of the day, when you look at some of the most iconic photos of like Muhammad Ali and things like this, he's wearing a Cartier tank, which today is considered a lady's size. I don't think it looks out of place on him. I think it looks amazing.
I wouldn't have told him.
No,
if it did.
I wouldn't have either. Don't worry. But I think it's interesting really that, there's all these factors at play, but at the end of the day, it comes down to buying what you like. And if you happen to fall into the camp where that ends up being the thing that goes sky high,
c'est la vie.
Great.
Happy days. Yeah. Has there ever been bits that have come into your hands that you should have sold, that you kept, or that you absolutely fell in love with? I need this
every
watch.
Day. Every day. Yeah. Every day it happens. Is the fortunate thing about buying and selling is when I buy something, I can decide when I'm going to sell it. Right? I buy it today with the intent to sell tomorrow.
Yes.
But if I like it enough, I'll be like, I'll keep it for a bit. Or if it needs a service, for example, I'll be like, well, before I send it off for service, I'll have it. And I'd say there's probably 10 watches at a time that are in my personal collection, which are part of that example, where they're just like, I'm just enjoying. I'm not really telling anyone I've got it yet. So maybe a customer will see it on my wrist and I'll be like, okay, I'll let you know when I'm ready. And then there's pieces that I think 6 years ago I came across a Zenith Defy.
Yeah.
Beautiful vintage 70s Zenith Defy. And I managed to work out a Part X for, like, I got a watch gift from an ex, and obviously everything went there, so I just traded that watch and technically got the watch for free.
Nice.
I sold the watch and the guy enjoyed it and then traded it back to me. And this happened like 3 times with this watch. And I always loved this watch, and it was at a time where I couldn't afford it. Yeah. But then I got to the point where I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to keep it.
It's mine now.
Yeah. And it's been in the collection ever since. And there's certain watches like that which,
stand out.
Yeah. And I think it's not even about a value thing. It's not about anything like that. It's interesting, that Zenith Defy, when I got it, people weren't even wanting to pay £300 for them. Now people want to sort of throw over £1,000 all day long at them.
Mate, I was talking about this to someone about Rolex mill subs not too long ago, and how the MOD used to sell them on a ring.
Crazy.
Like not that long ago. Yeah. You'd rock up to an auction house in London and they'd pick up a steel ring with just watch heads on it, and you buy them by the ring.
It's insane. I mean, being in the industry for a while now, known some guys who have been in it 40, 50, 60 years. Their dads have been in it, their granddads, have been traders, 3 generations doing it. It's some of the stories you hear. There was a time where all everyone wanted was bubble backs.
Yeah.
Right. Rolex bubble backs. And those were the hottest thing. If you had a Daytona, a Paul Newman Daytona, no one wanted to buy off you.
Of course.
They might buy it for parts. Because the Valjoux 72 was like a good movement. They used in a few things or whatever was in it. So it's just amazing how the industry's changed. And speaking with a dealer, I think the most recent one, which surprises a lot of people right now, people obsess over originality and patina. Yeah. Right. So the more patina something has, even if it's borderline damage, the more cool it is, more people want to pay for it. Yeah. There was a time only about 15 years ago where everything had to be refinished. You had to have a 70s watch that looked brand new. So you had to have the dial repainted, case replated if it was gold, like everything. It looked shiny and new. Yeah. Yeah. Those watches now, people just scoff at. They're like, well, why would I want that? They want the thing with the cracks and everything like that. And being a vintage guy, I have both sides. I've got my Zenith Defy was unpolished. I had it polished. Everyone's like, how dare you do such a thing? It looks great. I like it.
It's yours. Yeah, you get what you want.
And then, some bits I've got, the dials are borderline effed, and I like them. They've got a cool pattern to them or patina. But it's just interesting how, these trends change, and it just shows it's cyclical, So calm down on Instagram, people. That's what I'm saying. Calm down obsessing over everything. It's okay.
No, fair one, mate.
Stick to what you like.
I think that's the key. That is the key. You stick to what you like. And I've always lived with a premise, mate, that the watch chooses the man rather than the other way around.
Nick that. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's true. Watch choose, like a lot of the stuff I've got, mate, has chosen me. Yeah. Some of these pieces have entered into my collection without me actively pursuing them, be it gifts or anniversaries. They found me. I didn't find them, but who am I to then say, right, okay, you're not for me? Like,
of course.
The universe, God, whoever you want to say, is put it in my path for a reason. Do you know what I mean? Then there are other pieces where I can't imagine not having them. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And then there's bits in between. So you look at it and you're like, well, perhaps this was a bit of a fling or a whim, or I was into this at a time and now it's not, and I want to go in a certain direction, and they're the ones that you tend to move around a bit if you can. So understanding that consignment piece and how that works is fascinating, not only for me but also for a lot of the listeners as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing, there's a lot of talk going around about it because as I'm sure a lot of the viewers know, there was a US dealer who did a lot of consignment and ran off with about £5 million worth of stuff, and just it was crazy. But he was an ex-con in the first place, and he was going out having £100,000 meals driving Lamborghinis. Yes. I drive a Kia. I like Nando's, right? And
I like Nando's,
and
right?
Most of my watches are under £1,000 personally, right? So I live a humble life, but also there's a contract in place, a legal binding contract that has everything stated. You got to just be smart with who you go to.
James, yeah, absolutely.
You know, if there's an Instagram guy saying, you know, I can get you £2,000 more than this guy, ask yourself how and why.
Yeah.
And, you know, just be smart with it.
Hey, 100%. And, you know, for what it's worth, like, as I said, and as I open this shop with me, I've bought off you. I know a lot of guys, like hell of a lot of guys have bought off you in my family and in my inner circle of friends and even wider circles. You wouldn't be sat here, I wouldn't have invited you up, mate, if I thought you were cutting around in Lambos eating £300,000 meals and stuff like that. It probably wouldn't have happened. But
wouldn't even know where to go for such a thing. That's the thing.
Mate, I know a chef out in Dubai, Caesar. I know you listen, mate. I'm sure you could rustle something up for James here for that sort of money,
amazing.
Mate.
Yeah.
He's interested. He's top drawer, in fairness to him. I give him that.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, you touch on an interesting subject there, which is the watch world is built on word of mouth.
Yeah.
Especially in the pre-owned world, because it's trust-based. You know, you're handing over money, whether it be, you can, you know, via the website, you can use credit cards and debit cards. But if you want a deal, it's got to be bank transfer because there's no fees, so on and so on. Yeah. But at that point, you're losing all potential safety when you bank transfer. So it's all built on trust. Yeah. So knowing other people or having online reviews, I mean, it amazes me sometimes. I don't search them because I don't like them, but like forums is usually where you go to get all the bad stuff, right? Yeah. And I'm always amazed when people say to me, there's like barely any bad stuff about you on the forum. I'm like, oh, that's a good thing. So it just goes to show, you know, just do honest business and it comes back around.
Something I've noticed that there are certain places on the internet where you can go and find overwhelmingly positive things. Yeah. And then certain areas of the internet you go, and it's like, this is where people go to moan. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And
you've got to find a middle ground somewhere in between, I think.
Same as anything in life. Yeah, the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Exactly. Do you know what I mean? And that's, it again, it comes back to the media you consume, where you look, where you search, what you read, etc. It's going to have an impact on things. So you've got your setup, mate, and obviously you've got drops, which you do every Saturday, new stock coming in. Sometimes you'll show a little bit of leg and you say coming up soon and stuff like that.
I'll get the teasing in there.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, 100%. And I know I look forward to these posts, mate. And I sit down, I watch them because I'm what's he got? What's coming up? What can I shift? What do I need? Has he got the thing I'm looking for? I'm not going to say what I'm looking for. I'll tell you after this, but I don't want to help that market rise anymore. You know what I mean? But you've also got a site where people can come and scratch and sniff. Is that in central London, mate? Where are you based?
Yeah, so I have an appointment-only office in Clerkenwell, which is right near Farringdon, near Hatton Garden. So it's sort of where everyone knows, really. But it's appointment-only. I keep it that way just because, for me, working in shops, doing all that kind of stuff, there was nothing worse than sitting down with a customer, you're building rapport, you get in somewhere, you know, with them, even beyond the watches, and then you got the manager looking over saying, oh, there's another customer. So what I do, appointment-only, hour time slot, you get that hour. You know, whether you just want to look at stuff, whether you want to consign something, sell me something, you know, whatever it might be, or just chat and have a coffee. I have some customers who come in probably once a month when they're passing through London. They just come sit, have a coffee. I know what they like, so I get a few watches out. You know, that's I want to build relationships, and I want to sell you the right watch. I don't just want to sell you a watch. And something I always say to customers is, let's work together. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. If I show you a watch and it's not for you, explain. Out of curiosity. Because the more I know about what you like, if you contact me and say, hey, Kibble, I saw on your coming soon, you showed this watch, I can say to you, I don't think that one's for you. Based on what you've said before, this, that, and the other, I don't think that would suit you. Obviously, if you want to go for it, go for it. But at the same token, if I say, I think this one would fit in your collection nicely, you know I'm being honest. You know I've done the legwork with you. You know it's gonna fit. So it's just the best way to do it. But yeah, that's where it is. Clerkenwell. It's a great location, really historic for watches. You know, Hans Wilsdorf would have walked along that road that I walk along. It's kind of amazing.
There's a lot of history for watches and timekeeping there, mate. It's a hell of a lot.
It's incredible.
It's a cool spot, that.
It is. And then social media is a big part of it. You know, Instagram, as you say, I tease what's coming on there a lot. We have a broadcast list for people who just want to be bombarded every day with watches.
How does that work? Explain that to me.
Yeah, so it's a WhatsApp broadcast list. So we have a WhatsApp number. Yeah. You basically message the number and say, hey, I want to be in it. You got to add me to your contacts, all that sort of stuff. But every day, what you see on Instagram basically gets put on there first. Right. So you get first look. Yeah, pretty much. So you get all the coming soons. You can request for extra photos, details, all that kind of stuff. And you can just get it before it goes on the website. Because as you said, we put watches on the website every Saturday, 9:30 a.m. Yeah. And it's, I call them drops. I'm sure that's not unique. I think everyone calls them drops now. But
that makes sense. A lot of people know what that means.
And I think I'm on like episode 160 of videos, and I've been doing it for like 200 and something weeks consistently. Only missed a couple. So it's a lot of watches that go up, and it's usually 12 watches a drop. And something to keep in mind, I do what you see, I do it all myself. So, you know, my dad will do a little bit of writing here and there because he enjoys it now, which is good. My wife might do an email here and there as well. But everything, photography, packaging, buying, selling.
You nail it, mate, in fairness. And you know to send a watch, which I love. Do you know what I mean? I picked up what did I get off you? Last one I had off you was my Tudor Black Bay GMT Pro.
Yes.
And I remember sending you money down for that and this thing arriving, and like, it was just packaged incredibly. It bugs me, mate, when you pick a watch up off someone and they send it in bubble wrap with like no real box, no protection, no nothing. It just does my head in. That thing arrived and it was perfect. I could have kicked it around the office and nothing would have gone wrong with it. Do you know what I mean? That's why we have to package it that way, because that's probably what happens in the depot. You just got to be sure. I mean, I've had a watch shipped in a sock from a dealer before. Oh,
it was just like literally in a sock, in a plastic bag.
Yeah, no.
Like, Jesus Christ,
what are you doing? Yeah, stop it. Yeah, stop it.
So no, it's important. I think presentation's important. It's why, you know, with the website we have consistent photos. You scroll through, it all looks uniform. I mean, the wood here is the same wood. It's just, it makes it look nice. And I think, you know, it's a visual thing at the end of the day. You've got to be visually attracted to it. Yeah. And then it's like additional photos, all this sort of stuff. I think a lot of dealers, they work very hard to make things look polished and nice. And, you know, remove everything. And I present them as they are. If a watch is scratched, it's scratched. You know, it's how it is. And I think, you know, you make that decision. Everything could be polished.
Of course.
I can't unpolish a watch, so I leave them unpolished in the first place if I can. But yeah, I think just the transparency is what's elevated me.
I think you're right, mate. 100%. I think you're right. And like I say, I'll continue to buy off you, mate. And appreciate it. And I know, you know, a lot of my friends and family will as well, simply based on that. So essentially, mate, it brings us kind of full circle, really. So what's the plan for you moving forward? How do you you know, how do you see yourself in 5 years?
It's amazing. Like, if you had asked me that 2 and a bit years ago, it'd be very different to what I'd say today. And the reason being, I've got family, I've got a beautiful daughter now, you know, it's life is good and life has changed for the better. And, you know, I was obsessed with working 24/7. I would work every day. If you wanted to see a watch on a Sunday, I would be in. I'd come to the office no matter what. Now I value my weekends. I value my evenings. I want to be home for my daughter going to bed. I want that bedtime routine. You know, I absolutely love it to pieces. So my sort of plans have changed a little bit. You know, I still want to grow. I still have ambition. I still have ideas and plans. But for me, it's about, you know, keeping the Kibble Watches a family thing if I can, and keeping it to a manageable level where it's just me. I think there's a sort of nicety to that. You know, I'm never going to be the watch finders of the world or the subdials, and that's okay. You know, I'm not aiming for that. If you want a real experience with a human and sit down, not to say the other guys don't do that. I know they do.
I get that.
You know, it's I want to build that relationship with you. You know, I've got customers who bought a watch off me 8 years ago. They're still with me today. They do everything through me. You know, it's just
you're doing business in like, and I mean this in a positive way, but like in the Victorian stuff. You know what I mean? Back in the day, watches,
as if the internet didn't exist. That's how I like it.
Back in the day, watch companies would make watches. They'd sell them to jewelers. They would dial them or put their logo on them, and then they would have and hold the relationship with the customer. So the customer would come into the jewelers and be like, I need a wedding ring and I need a watch, please. I'm like, perfect, no problem. There's your pieces. The relationship was with the customer and the dealer, or not the brand and stuff.
I think it's important. You know, it's like one of the reasons why I've kept my margins pretty much how they are since day one, and just increase the amount of sell. You know, I'd rather have some dealers that I know who sell probably one piece to my 10, and they make the margin in that one piece to my 10 as well. But for me, I'm like, well, now I've got 10 new customers, and maybe 4 of those were consignment, so I've just made 4 other customers happy. It's like, Jesus Christ, now I've got 14 people who are happy. And they're going to tell their friends. You know, if you're a watch collector, you probably know someone or trying to get your friend into it or whatever it might be. And it goes full circle. And it's just doing it an honest way that ends up being the right way. I think it's
nice
simple.
To be nice.
It's simple.
Just don't be
people often ask me, you know, how do you do it? How do you do it? Just be honest. Just be good. And it will come. It will come. Patience. You know, I've been doing this since I was 16.
Absolutely.
And I'm only now really at a point where it's like, I'm doing good. Like financially, everything's okay.
Absolutely, mate. No, good for you, mate. I made up for you. It's nice to see.
Well, it's thanks to people like you, though. So.
Oh, mate, Jesus,
I won't be anywhere without customers.
Addicts,
good people. This is it. I'm just the dealer. This is
it. No, I get it, mate. But I mean, it makes life easy. Having a relationship, having having a trust there, harboring and fostering those relationships make a massive difference. So where can the guys find you, mate?
So simple at Kibble Watches. It's not as complex as it used to be when I had like everything on the web domain, but it's kibblewatches.co.uk. At Kibble Watches on Instagram. All the details are on there. Anything you need. So
for the international guys, that's Kilo India Bravo Bravo Lima Echo. Kibble. I know we have a lot of listeners, mate, all over the world, and I know a few of the guys struggle with my accent.
Mine's not that great, and it's an odd word to spell as well.
It's regional as well, mate. And it may change it, so we're just trying to make it easy. Kibble Watches. So, mate, thanks again. I really appreciate you coming up, mate, and I hope we can do it again in the future.
I hope so too.
Nice one. Thanks, mate. Until next time.